Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rakal Kadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who are teaching this truth in sincerity. And a shout out to Yakims out there on the four quarters of the earth proclaiming this truth. Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rakal Kadash, Barak Dum. So, out here another week prophesying the downfall of Babylon the Great, also known as Basra in the scriptures, and also known as the high place of Edom, if you will. Because Esau's main dwelling place has always been in America. You know, America has been that hammer of the whole earth, but yet now is being cut asunder. And we're starting to see these things come to play, as Magog is now being a guard unto these places that were terrorized by the U.S. occupation, especially the occupations in Iraq and Afghanistan, which were the training bases for ISIS and all their terror groups, which they control. But now Donald Trump is now moving in his troops to regain the oil fields in Syria. He is planning that as we speak, you know, to go back into Syria to regain the oil fields and capture that before the Syrian Arab army gets it. Especially now that Russia has now set up their, you know, the buffer zone that Gomer had wanted. Is being a guard unto it now. Now the security zone has already been established by Russia. So, of course, the U.S. is pretty much lost. It's been defeated. How's the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder? We're starting to see the beginnings of these prophecies by, you know, Magog coming in and protecting these countries. Hamath and Arpad, which is another term for the Middle East, and, of course, North Africa, you know. But in the biblical scriptures, Hamath and Arpad are now getting the fortification. Now, we also know, though, that prophecy tells us that eventually what's going to happen is the least of their flock, Amalek, is going to destroy Damascus, you know, in retaliation to this, you know, because, of course, Magog being a guard unto them. But at this point, because Damascus is destroyed, you know, Hamath and Arpad are confounded, meaning because, you know, Damascus was lost in this. So what's that going to do? That's going to cause all the nations to hate the whore and destroy her, burn her with fire. Why? Because the greatest supporter of Amalek has always been the U.S. military force. It's always been about protecting the bankers' interests. You ever notice that Vietnam was a bankers' war? Think about it, though. You know, you were ordered to go out and carry out a strike, and then all of a sudden the government's called it off, but in the meantime you've already been spotted. While the government has called off the attack, halted the attack, and you're just sitting ducks out there. You know, the same thing actually happened in Desert Storm, very similar there. You know, once they told the Kurds that they could start beginning to overthrow the forces of Saddam Hussein, George Bush pulled out the U.S. military, you know, because, of course, they had no intention on actually helping the Kurds, even though they promised them that. Very similar to what's happening now, as I reiterated, you know, history tells us time and time again, even though you're sent to go you think it's your call of duty to go in and police the world, because that's what the U.S. does, you know, policing the world. While in the meantime, PG&E has cut power again. They're going to have a power shut off again tonight at 10 o'clock, you know, here in the Reading area because of wind activity, what they say is wildfire prevention, right? But PG&E has never taken this tactic before. No, because this is a bigger FEMA plan. Yes, they are getting ready. The Army after next is getting ready. The UN. Because Donald Trump, how is he going to get into Iraq? Through Saudi Arabia, right? So he's been sending troops into Saudi Arabia over that false flag, which they accused Iran of attacking, when in fact it was Yemen who struck back. See how this whole thing is happening? He is gathering the nations together in the valley of Yehoshaphat. And Edom is starting to become, you know, urban legend. In other words, he's the most hated race on the planet. You know, people know that it's the red Hebrew Edomites that are causing all this destruction, especially the hammer of the whole earth, the whore, Babylon the Great. So, you know, pretty much they are now taking sides with Magog. Magog is saying, look, no strings attached, but not only will you have our protection, but we can actually do business together. Well, of course they're going to hop onto that, and he said no Western pressure, meaning that the U.S. You know, can't pressure them because they'll have the protection of Russia. You see, that's just it, though. That's why Esau was never able to go into Syria fully. But, so pretty much they're getting confounded by this. You can see what everything that's leading up to when Amalek finally does destroy Damascus. All the pieces are into place. But not only are those pieces into place, but the mark, the RFID implant. Now they're actually telling you that this is your new wallet. Which we knew that the scriptures stated that pretty much you wouldn't be able to buy, sell, or trade unless you had the RFID mark. And so you can see that everything's gearing towards that, all these, scan readers, and, now you don't even have to literally use the magnetic strip anymore. You insert the chip, and a lot of times you can just wave the thing over the thing and it automatically takes your money. Well, why do you think that they've created this waveform? It was meant for that right hand right there, because they want to place it in you. Because Amalek thinks that you're nothing more than dogs. And the same tag that they use for dogs. That's why they started chipping pets a long time ago. Of course, most of the people went along with this. It's like, actually, that's a pretty good idea, they said among themselves, That way, if he gets lost, I'd be able to find him because it has a tracking chip in there. Well, that's just it, though. People volunteered for 1984 type of scenario, which most of us know what 1984 is, but in case you don't, George Orwell's 1984, good book. Also, there was a movie about it. But that's the kind of society that this has become. A police state, where pretty much you're not going to be able to buy, sell, or trade unless you receive the mark. And you won't be able to get into your cities, because they're going to have roadblocks everywhere. And like everything else, though, this place has been made for stubble. Well, they're struggling for everything, man. And you can see it's become a stubble because, very hard to get a job unless you work for Uber. But, Brother Malcolm has already said that they've already frozen his accounts just because of what we're teaching. So Esau is making a war against us Jakes, Pretty much, though, and don't even get me started on fucking PayPal. With, the side corp of eBay, although eBay lately has been, you could still buy, sell, and trade on there, but you always had to go through PayPal, but now you could take alternative payments, but I think that they still force the PayPal. And they can freeze your assets, you wait 2 or 3 weeks to get paid, but you've already paid the money to ship the items. Because Esau's policing everything. They're tracking everything. I mean, look at the USPS for that, Now, because of the false flag of the anthrax supposedly sent to Barack Obama, which that never happened, pretty much now you have to put a return address on there. Remember before you could just send stuff, you didn't even have to put a return address? Well, now they're pretty mandatory about that, so they're tracking everything you do, and this place is going down, man, pretty much. That's why PG&E is cutting the power. Esau knows that he has a short time, a.k.a. the devil. This devil knows that he has a short time. Only a short time now left to rule. So what's he want? He wants everybody tracked. He wants everybody chipped. They want total control. That's what these Amalekites want. And that's why you're starting to see false accusations come up, because, of course, we call the gutter rats out, because we know that they're not the real ones, so they put a false flag up saying that somebody tried to stab one of them. We know that's bullshit. We don't encourage our people to do this, but you see how they're going to try to falsify and say that, well, it's because we've been bringing it out, that they're not the real Israelites, that we're the real Israelites. So, of course, they're going to play on that scenario because, hey, they convinced everybody for years that 6 million of them fucking died in World War II because of Adolf Hitler, and everybody thought that, for the longest, because of course they kept recreating movies, Schindler's List, and so on, to make you believe that there actually was a Holocaust, but more like a holocaust. Oh wait, that's illegal. Better watch what I say, man, because you could be arrested for saying that over in Europe. Well, fuck it, what more can they do to me in this lifetime? Yeah, I'm gonna have to find another place to live, man. I just even though I've been a tenant at the place I've been living at, now I'm going to have to find myself another place to live. Hey, here's a 60-day notice. Even though you've been a faithful tenant and all that, the owner has sold the place and they want to renovate it. So now I have to look for another place to live. But does that stop me from coming out here and teaching? Am I crying boo-hoo-hoo? No. But Edomite, on the other hand, there's no end to them. You know, they have the audacity to ask you for money. They have the audacity to ask you for help, even though they've done nothing but try to oppress you. You know, they want your help. You know, would you lend to this man? Would you give to this man after everything he's done to you? But he's going to ask you for it. Sure, you got any change? Does it look like I'm asking for change? You know? And a lot of people, man, that's why these camps come up. I mean, look at IUIC, man. You have to, it's mandatory that you attend their seminars, so you have to travel across the U.S., and you have to spend money to buy a uniform. You have to be in that purple uniform. Well, there's no rules about how you're dressed, except that you do keep a custom. You know, you keep your beard to a certain extent. You keep your hair to a certain extent. You know, we have a code here. But we're not asking everybody, you know, to dress up, you know, in the way that IUIC is. But yes, we do have a code of conduct. You know, it's quite simple. You know, you get an overgarment. And we do keep our garments plain spiritually and physically. So I'm going to read out of Obadiah because we're seeing this happening. The vision of Obadiah. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let her rise up against her in battle. That's what's happening now. All the nations are being gathered in the valley of Yehoshaphat, which the valley of Yehoshaphat is right there in Saudi Arabia, and all the nearby states, you know, such as Iraq and, you know, Libya, Gomer, and all his bands. You see how this war is already happening? Behold, I have made thee great, made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. Like I said before, a lot of these places are tired of the red Hebrew Edomites, especially the whore Babylon the Great. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the cliffs of the rock, which is really talking about the Edomites because they originate from Petra, a.k.a. Mount Seir. Whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who will bring me down to the ground? Thou shalt exalt thyself as the eagle. You know, you always see that emblem on just about everything, which is really a phoenix. So, you know, these elites, they think that they're going to just rise after this nuclear war that they start. And they are purposely starting a nuclear war with Russia. And thou hast set thy nest among the stars. Thence will I bring thee down, saith the Most High. You know, and they have, you know, you've heard about the Space Force, you know, which are all nations, especially the United States, have a plan to actually fight the Most High and the angels, because they know, but you don't know. You're unwilling. You've been playing games like Mega Mania, Asteroids, Space Invaders, you know, thinking that, oh, okay, you know, these flying saucers, those are just aliens like Martians. And so, you know, you have no idea that these are the vessels of the Most High. You have no idea that these are chariots, because you grew up not knowing who you were. You grew up playing video games. You grew up thinking that, okay, those are alien craft. You've seen all these movies, Mac and Me, E.T., and all that. So you're really thinking, okay, aliens that come from other planets, right? So you have no idea that those are the angels of the Most High. And that the stars spoken of here also is talking about the nuclear missiles, by the way. You know, when it says, I saw a star fall onto the ground, you know, and it had it was a fiery serpent. That's talking about the nuclear missiles, which they may do a game in the 80s called Missile Command. Maybe it was even the late 70s, Missile Command, remember that? And that's all about nuclear destruction. And of course, you do see them chariots also wreaking havoc on the buildings. You have to have a missile defense forces to stop the missiles from hitting the buildings and also protect your arsenal. You know, and that's how this devil's going to go down in 1 hour. Babylon the Great will be destroyed in 1 hour. If these came to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Would they have not stolen till they had enough? But these Edomites, man, they just keep on taking, you know. You know, and then they use the accusations like Saddam Hussein took Kuwait. Remember that shit? But they were given the green light. Just like everything else, they set him up because, of course, he didn't destroy Iran like they had wanted. You know, even though he had an 8-year war with them. No, they turned on him. If grape gatherers came to thee, would they not leave some grapes? When this Edomite robs you, man, they don't leave you anything, man. They totally take over everything, man. Do you think for 1 second that the villages that they raided, you know, of both Gad and Reuben, that they actually left them anything to survive on? No, man. They ravaged their women. They destroyed their villages. And, hey, man, they took out their ways of hunting. the buffalo, man. They totally nearly caused the extinction of all buffaloes just so that way they could destroy them. So they did not leave any grapes. This is talking about the red Hebrew Edomites, those terrorists that came over here, because we've been fighting terrorism. There's a sweater, and a t-shirt that says fighting terrorism since the 1400s. And it's our people, the tribe of Gad and Reuben. How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. So everyone that was a part of what Psalm 83, which we could bring that up, that were partakers in that, are coming up now. That's why you're seeing everything gather in the valley of Yehoshaphat. Shall I not in that day, saith the Most High, shall destroy the wise men out of Edom and understanding out of the mount of Esau? Again, pretty much, though, that's what's happening, though, is there's no more wisdom to be found here in Teman, which Teman is another code word for Esau, Edom, Babylon the Great, and people are starting to question things, and that's a very good thing, because that means you're starting to see the downfall of it. Shall I not in that day, saith the Most High, even destroy the wise men out of Edom, and the understanding out of the mount of Esau? Meaning that, not everybody believes what's on the news. A good portion do, but some people are very wide awake. And the mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed, to the end that everyone of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. So, in one form or another, they're going to be slaughtered, one by one. And they're going to pick each other off, just like in the walls of Jericho, just like they are now. They're going to pick each other off. All of the men of thy confederacy that were confederate, to say that the name Yashar'Allah, that we would no longer remember that we were Israelites, shall be cut off. In that day thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates, and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even thou wast as one of them. Pretty much, though, talking about these red Hebrew Edomites. And it's also going into when they took over the temple and they destroyed it. Now our people are eating pork and doing all these abominable things because, again, we didn't remember that we were Israelites. So we were under stretched Christianity where they said it's okay, all foods are clean. Those of us that took to Christianity, a good portion of us also took to Islam and other things, but that was always our downfall, is that we worshipped other gods. Idolatry. And yes, Christianity is idolatry, because it's not the God of the Bible. No, it's Caesar Borgia. It's an entire different teaching. Thou shouldest not enter into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Yea, thou shouldest not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity. But thou stoodest and thou did trade, aka the slave trade. They did make money off of this. Ishmael in particularly made a lot of money off of us. So they've had it coming for a long time, and we're starting to see that. Esau, Edom is coming down hard on these places. The very people that they sold us to are now coming down hard on them, which is why Magog is being a guard thou unto them. Neither shouldest thou have stood in the crossway to cut off those of his that did escape, neither shouldest thou have delivered up those of his that did remain in the day of distress. And that's talking about how we had fled into the mountains, but then they had rounded us up. Just getting into Psalm 83, which I said I would bring that out in a bit here. For in the day of the Most High, the Lord, is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. For you have drunk upon my holy mountain, so shall you, all you heathen, drink continually. Yea, they shall drink, and they shall swallow down, and they shall be as though they had not been. So punishment is coming for what they've done, because all were partakers in that, including Syria, which is coming up all the time, So this short victory they have, as well as I do, that that's going to be short-lived. We know about the day that Damascus gets destroyed. So getting into Psalm 83, because it's pretty much everyone that were partakers in this, you're seeing it come back to them. Psalm 83, keep not thou silence, O Yahweh, hold not thy peace, be not still, O Yahweh, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. again, they all were together in this. All together. It's like, hey, verse 3, thou have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Yashala should be no more in remembrance. And that happened to us. Hey, we all grew up not knowing that we were Israelites, and not just even to those that actually look like the people, man. We settled for names like Black, Hispanic, or Native American, and Indian. That's even a worse insult, because Indian just means savage. But we settled for those names because that's what we were told. But you see, that's just it. We didn't have any remembrance. No, not until about 1970, when this word had gone out again, after the 3.5 days when thou was woken up, But they have consulted together one consent. They are confederate against thee, the tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites of Moab, which is China, and the Hagarites, Gebal and Ammon, which is talking about the Japanese, and Amalek. So Amalek was a big time partaker in this, and you know that because they made a lot of money off the slave trade. The Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre, talking about in the Middle East there, Syria and all that area, because Syria is mentioned next, but comes up as Assur, also is joined with them. So that's Syria. So that's why you're hearing about Syria all the time in the news. So they're, again, they have holden the children of Lot, Selah. Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin, the brook of Kison, which perished at Endor. They became as dung for the earth. And that's what happened, man. We're the lowest form looked at, man, those of us that still have our origination, man, that's why we're in the state that we're in, because this had to come to pass, because, of course, the Most High is going to have great wrath upon all those that were partakers, as you were already hearing about in the book of Obadiah. Which have perished at Endor, they became as dung of the earth, make their nobles like Oreb and like Zeb, yea, all the princes of Zebah and as Zalmunna. Man, we never knew that we were royal. Oh man, we're not even considered commoners, because if we were commoners, we'd have all the benefits that Edomites do, but we don't. We are less. And pretty much, man. I've heard these Edomites talk. Nigger ain't worth more than the shit on the ground. That's the way they feel about us, and you can pick it up. I mean, I know you've heard it. And of course, they make fun of us, even us Israelite foreigners that don't look like them, that are joined unto them, or maybe here alone, man, they look upon us as the dung of the earth. Who said, let us take to ourselves the houses of Yahweh in possession. And that's what happened. You got these Amalekites claiming to be the Jews. Oh, my power made them like a wheel, as the stubble before the wind. As the fire burneth the wood, and as a flame setteth the mountains on fire. So it's talking about pretty much, man, what's going to happen for all those that were partakers in this. So persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid with thy storm. They had pretty much sought us out. They had burned our last places of, And listen, we pretty much, have become the dung of the earth, as you know. Fill the faces with shame, that they may seek thy name, O Yahweh. And that's happening now. We're calling upon our true power, which we didn't even know his name, man. We were divorced from Yahweh for the longest, and Yahweh Shai. We didn't know his real name. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek thy name, O Yahweh. Let them be confounded and troubled forever, and yet let them be put to shame and perish, that they may know that thou, whose name alone is Yahweh, art the Most High over all the earth. See, now we know what his real name is, even though it says in the King James that it's Jehovah. We know that's not the name, that there was no J in the Hebrew. And pretty much, though, all of these letters, all of these scrolls were letters to the Israelites. Though Esau has taken this and created stretched Christianity by molding in all the other religions. So when you pick up terms like hell, you're thinking of, of their version of it, which is, the Greek mythology version, But hell is pretty much the condition that we're in. We're in hell now. It doesn't get any worse than this. Don't have anything to our name. At any time, this devil can come in, serve you an eviction notice, right? Well, now you got to move again. And if you don't have any way of moving and all that, that's not going to stop this devil from repossessing all your shit, you know. So you don't own anything here. You're nothing, you know. You become like dung of the earth, man. And, you know, it's coming to its end anyways, because now you can see that not only are we suffering this, you know, the 2/3 of us, you know, and of course we the elect are suffering this, duh. But at the same time, though, we have hope in Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. We can call upon our power because now his name is powerful again, you know, you see, because we have the real name now. You know, we're not calling upon those heathen names like God or Jesus Christ or Jehovah or Yahweh or Yahusha. You know, no, we have his real name. And that's what they're scared of, because when we come into repentance and we turn away from all those other things that we used to do, well, that means that the Most High will hear our prayers. And that's another thing, though, is that, you know, the famine of the word is right around the corner. The Most High is about to send a famine in the land, you know, and you already know that the food famine has already happened. A lot of crops did not happen, so you're going to see that happen as well, you know, and you're starting to see the price changes because a lot of things just didn't get planted this year. And that's going to continue, but then you're going to see the... you know, many channels have already been taken down and are on alternative channels. And eventually we won't be able to do alternative channels, so get this while you can, save it to your computer. And if you're like me and you're not even sure where you're living and all that, just take your laptop with you. You know, when you find a place of a Wi-Fi, download the videos, save them to your computer. You know, until you do find another place or means, but you can at least do that, you know, in the meantime. Because we're not going to be on there forever. That's what I'm going to do. You know, by December 1st, I will not even have a place to stay. You know, until I find another one. So that's what I'm going to be doing, bouncing around and still going out here and teaching. I'm not going to make that excuse to not teach. Yeah, I got to move all through November. But does that stop me from going out and teaching? Hey, there was snow and heavy wind last year, so I walked with a sign all the way over to do camp. You know, okay, I admit that, you know, the videos were only 10 to 15 minutes, but now I'm out here for a full half hour, you know, because that's what the battery will hold. I'm just dealing with what I got, you know, because the battery will only hold for about 30 minutes, you know, because, let's face it, you know, got to save up to move, right? How can you do that if you're still paying rent at the place? Well, all that will be figured out anyways, because my faith ain't in this fucking money system, which is a joke to begin with, you know, because all they are is papers to buy you rights that you should already have, you know. The Most High never meant it to be this way, but you see, because we became idol worshipers, we started worshiping under other gods, you know. He was divorced from us for the longest, but those that came back, his elect, the ones that he did come to save, the ones that Yahushua did die for, we're going to have protection that time. So when hard times come, well, we've already been through it before. Pretty much, we the elect have already been through all this before, in one form or another. So we know how to tough it out because we're not weak. See, Yahushua, by Yahweh, you know, sent by Yahweh, and made sure that we would know what to do. It's in us, you know, that we would be able to find our power in that day. And that's happening now. And that's what Esau's the most afraid of, you know. So, of course, like everything else, the war is happening because the Most High is stirring up the Medes and the Persians and, you know, which the Medes, modern-day Medes, is the Russians and the Persians and Libya, all of them, Gomer and all those bands. And there's, it's a battle zone over there. And, of course, Esau is coming in through Saudi Arabia and Iraq and Afghanistan to finally, you know, the least of the flock, Amalek, is going to draw them into this war. It's going to make their attacks on both Damascus and against Iran. It's going to actually try to enter into Iran. And you already hear Benjamin, not a Jew, always saying that, you know, Iran's got a nuclear weapon, you know, and it's all false pretenses, you know. Iran's building a nuclear weapon and has threatened to wipe Israel off the map. You hear that utter rhetoric all the time. And they're not the real Israel. You know, so that's why we call that land, really, it's called Ashdod, because, you know, nah, we're a people before it's a place, you know, and we're scattered among the whole earth. You know, the land has been parted. We've been scattered amongst the heathen. A good portion of us even look like the heathen or sound like the heathen, but at the end, when it shall speak, and it's speaking now, the new song, we're singing that song, and it's echoing. You know, this is the time that Esau's about to fall, for he's come down with great wrath, knowing that he has but a short time. That's why they're pushing the chip. This being the year Karagma, you've seen the push for the chip, and you've seen this war continue, and you can see that the final steps. Now that Russia actually has set up the security zone, now they're going to try to attempt to take the oil fields from Syria. That's what's going on in the news. The news that they really don't want you talking about. So, you know, you've had those impeachment trials and you've had other things going on. PG&E shutting down power. So, you know, that's another way of shutting down this information. If you know, a good portion of us live in PG&E places. So, you know, they cut the power whenever they feel like it. Well, of course, because the army after next is getting ready. And, well, that's what we've been prophesying would happen. That martial law would be declared. And eventually people are going to get sick of PG&E cutting their power, that's going to cause outrage. That's why this devil's doing it. You know, under these false pretenses of, oh, preventing wildfires. So, you know, we the elect, we're not deceived at all by Esau. So I hope all this has been edifying, and I'm still going to come out here and proclaim this while I still can, even though I'm going to be looking for another place to live. So, you know, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, Wa Abba Babal. Rakatham Jehofolek, Shalom.